Good afternoon. I'm Ed Hundert, Dean for Medical Education, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this virtual Class Day celebration for the Harvard Medical School and Harvard School of Dental Medicine Class of 2020. I so wish we were together under the tent on the quad on what is, truthfully, often a day with either a chilly mist or rain or such heat and humidity that many people are actually wearing very little under their graduation robes. But in the last few months, we've learned a lot about what really counts, and it's not the weather, but whether we're together. So I know we're all very grateful that Harvard University has promised that we will have an in-person set of commencement events, including an in-person HMS HSDM Class Day celebration once it's safe to do so. Our goal today is to get the maximum joy out of doing this in a way that, while physically distanced, is still socially connected. And I know many of our graduates are either with your families or connected virtually with them right now while you're watching this. Our graduating students have worked so hard for so many years to get to today. So I want to start by asking all the families and friends out there in cyberspace to give a hand to the graduate in your family. Woo! Let's hear it for the graduates. And now I want our graduates to give a hand to all your parents and other family members and teachers and mentors who supported and loved you through all those years of hard work. Come on, you can do better. Nice. You know, for me, one of the best things about Class Day is hearing the student speakers reflect on their time in medical and dental school. One of my favorite observations came from a student speech at Class Day some years ago from a graduating student who said, "You arrive at HMS answering most questions, I don't know. Then, after learning from the experts for 4 or more years, you leave HMS answering most questions, we don't know." I would like to encourage each of you to think of the medical degree you receive today as your membership card into the we who don't know, but the we who have been prepared and pledged ourselves to find out on behalf of each of your patients based on the most current information that's known today, to find out better answers than are known today by creating the answers of the future through your research, and by solving the systemic problems that may underlie the question that was asked through your advocacy for positive social change. On that note, I want to end by complimenting this class for the magnificent graduation oath that you composed and will be reciting together shortly. It is absolutely inspirational in its pledge to do all that and more. And I join all your loved ones and teachers in telling you that I couldn't be more proud of you today. And I couldn't be more excited to have you join our alumni family that will continue our connections in so many wonderful ways. And to have you join us as our colleagues in this work, in this mission to alleviate human suffering, in this noble profession that is more important today than ever before. We love you, and I'm giving you each a virtual hug that I hope will be a real one when we have our in-person event in the future. Please remember to take care of yourselves and take care of one another, because by the way, your ability to take care of your patients depends on it. And now, to introduce our Class Day moderators who put this entire event together, I'd like to turn it over to someone whose contributions to this class are impossible to describe in words. Someone who has been devoting himself to you year in and year out, day in and day out, and lately truly 24/7, our amazing Dean for Students, Dr. Fidencio Saldana. Over to you, Fidencio.
Thanks very much, Ed. And a warm welcome to all of our family, friends, and loved ones of the graduates, and a congratulations to all the graduates of HMS and HSDM. As I was thinking about today, I reflected back to your first day of school, back when we were all sitting in the TMEC. I put up a picture of my kids, and we chatted about the promise and potential that we saw in all of you that day. And you definitely have fulfilled that potential during your time here at HMS and HSDM. Today, I just wanted to leave you with the same small pieces of advice that we talked about that day. The first was to continue to work hard, You've worked incredibly hard over your 4+ years here, and I know that you will continue to do so and make an incredible impact on all of the patients that you touch. Be kind. Be kind to yourself, be kind to your patients, be kind to all of those around you. And the being kind to yourself is particularly important as you continue on this challenging road, but fulfilling road of becoming a physician and dentist. And finally, don't forget to have fun. It seems a little bit harder these days in the era of many Zooms and phone calls, but you will continue to develop as a physician and as a person. Continue to explore your interests, connect with friends, family, and loved ones, and live your life to the fullest. Congratulations and good luck to all of you. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our 3 class co-moderators that have done an incredible amount of work to help us put this celebration together today. So it's my pleasure to introduce David Clossie, Eve Roth, and Jacob MG. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome all to Harvard Medical School and Harvard School of Dental Medicine's very first virtual Class Day ceremony. First, a heartfelt thank you to Deans Daly, Rosen, Hundert, and Saldana, who have brought us to this important milestone in our lives during this unprecedented time, and who continue to inspire us with their wisdom, courage, poise, and tenacity. Thank you. Thank you as well to all our family, friends, and mentors. Your encouragement and unwavering belief in us has given us the strength and confidence to arrive at this extraordinary moment. And of course, thank you to every member of this class, the unforgettable class of 2020, the first in the 237-year storied history of Harvard Medical School to attend graduation from their homes. What an unforgettable journey we have taken together, and what a privilege we share. Sadly, there is one member of our class, Mark Herzog, who is not with us today. One of Mark's best friends, our classmate Andrew Foley, has prepared a few remarks.
Congratulations to all our graduates, their families, and loved ones. It is a joyful day, and I'm grateful to be virtually celebrating with all of you. Today is also a day of remembrance. As our HMS family joins together, we do so missing one of our beloved classmates, Mark Herzog. Mark died this past January in a rock climbing accident in New Zealand, where he was completing an elective in rural primary care and using his weekends away from clinic to explore the outdoors. This elective in New Zealand, which he self-created, was quintessential Mark at HMS. Mind of a motivated student doctor, heart of a rural health advocate, and spirit of a blissful adventurer. Mark came to HMS with a fire in him. His experiences growing up in Central Appalachia as the youngest of 5 boys underpinned his ironclad commitment to return and work in vulnerable rural communities as a physician advocate. It was clear to anyone who knew him that he would fulfill this promise and do so much more. Mark was incredibly accomplished already in his young career. He was a National Health Service Corps Scholar, a Grossman Fellow in Health Policy at the Kennedy School, a co-leader of the Student Leadership Committee of the Center for Primary Care, and winner of the Dr. Robert H. Ebert Student Achievement Award in Primary Care at HMS. Our faculty recognized Mark as a generational leader in rural health. His classmates knew him as a curious, kind, generous, and soulful person, and he inspired people in all circles with his clinical talent, his policy acumen, and his relentless advocacy work, which he always grounded in the experience of his patients and the communities he served. From Central Appalachia to HMS and back to the rural areas he loved, Mark believed his story would come full circle. At the end of the first week of medical school, we each wrote a letter to ourselves that we would open on graduation. In his letter, Mark wrote, reflecting on his own story, quote, "Remember the suffering you have witnessed and have that inform the compassionate care you provide. Don't shy away from the challenging situations. You are the product of tremendous opportunities and gifts. It is and should be your motivation to create that for others." End quote. Mark's rhythm of life is reflected in those words. He experienced hardship and responded with empathy. He witnessed inequity and stood tall and spoke the truth. He recognized his power and used it to help others find theirs. If Mark were here today, he would be pretty upset that I'm saying all these nice things about him. He never wanted the spotlight on himself, and he much preferred reveling in the success of others. But as a proud friend, I can't help it. If Mark were here today, he would also be reminding us that graduation is really about the people who helped us get here. For him, there was no one more important in his journey than his mother, Mary Margaret. I know he would be giving her the biggest bear hug he possibly could, transferring all his love and gratitude with each squeeze. If Mark were here today, he would be thanking all of his teachers, including his faculty mentors, his classmates, and most of all, the patients he felt privileged to care for and learn from. If Mark were here today, I would have read him these words by the poet David White, which I sent to him in text messages after we finished our PCE year, our Step 1 and Step 2 exams, and after we finally finished applying for residency. The ultimate touchstone of friendship is not improvement, neither of the other nor of the self. The ultimate touchstone is witness, the privilege of having been seen by someone and the equal privilege of being granted the sight of the essence of another, to have walked with them, to have believed in them, and sometimes just to have accompanied them for however brief a span on a journey impossible to accomplish alone. Thank you, Mark, for being that true friend to so many of us in today's graduating class. We miss you, and we celebrate today with you in our hearts. Lastly, in an effort to continue Mark's legacy at HMS, a group of us have worked to establish a travel and research fund to support students doing work in rural health equity. We have a goal of raising $100,000 in 18 months so that this will become an endowed fund and impact generations of students like Mark who are passionate about rural healthcare. To make a gift, please go to the website on the screen and please accompany your gift with the fund name, Mark Herzog Memorial Fund in Rural Health Equity. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy, for those remarks. As we transition from student to physician, we also join a community of Harvard alumni. To welcome us as the newest members of this community is Dr. A.W. Karchmer, the Chair of Alumni Relations.
Good afternoon. It is my great pleasure to join you on this very special day. On behalf of the Harvard Medical Alumni Association, let me congratulate you, the members of the Harvard Medical School and the Harvard School of Dental Medicine classes of 2020, and your families and loved ones. Your graduation and many accomplishments to date are remarkable achievements. Well done. Shortly, you will become members of our Alumni Association. We very warmly welcome you and look forward to your participation with us in Harvard. This ceremony today leads to a unique moment in time. It sends you into the very midst of a threatening and very unsettling pandemic. That said, it is also a remarkable time. Medicine is reassuringly demonstrating altruism, selflessness, professionalism, and humanism, the very traits that brought you to Harvard and that continue to make medicine a special calling. HMS alums, and the faculty I'm sure as well, know that you are well prepared to meet the challenges ahead. We are confident that you will make important contributions to science, to your patients, and to healthcare, including to equity in the distribution of that care. Know that the Alumni Association is here for you. We look forward to working with you. We send you off today, appropriately so in Boston, with an Irish blessing. May good luck be with you wherever you go, and may your blessings outnumber the shamrocks that grow. Again, congratulations and welcome to the Alumni Association.
Thank you, Dr. Karchmer. I now have the pleasure to introduce our first of two Harvard Medical School Class Day speakers, Kin Jimun Ong. The title of Kin's speech is Harnessing the Power of Our White Coats.
To the distinguished faculty and loving family and friends who are joining from home, thank you for all you have done to help us reach this very special day. To my fellow graduates of 2020, congratulations. I know this isn't how we imagined celebrating our graduation together. Rather than showing off our tans after having laid on a beach for a month, or sitting under blue skies at the majestic HMS Quad, we are now separated across state lines, time zones, and even oceans. But I don't want to linger on what's different about today, but rather celebrate what has stayed the same, what binds us together, which is a deep commitment to serve others, to care for, heal, and comfort patients on their best in their worst days, and to forge meaningful relationships with the communities we serve. I have been humbled seeing the many ways your compassion and kindness have shown through. Checking in on patients at the end of a long shift, holding their hand and reminding them that they're not alone. Throwing a makeshift birthday party featuring balloons, a cake, and a card for that 7-year-old girl stuck in the hospital on chemo. And staying up late, combing the literature to find the missing puzzle piece that could give peace of mind to a young man struggling with an undiagnosed illness. It has been inspiring to see how you have honored the sacred patient-doctor relationship, and I know this will continue. I also know that you will use the power and privilege of your white coat to advocate for and usher in a healthier and brighter world, because time and time again, you already have. When an important medicine that reverses overdoses became available in Massachusetts, it was you that organized a campaign to destigmatize addiction and save lives. When reliable information about COVID-19 was hard to come by early on in the pandemic, it was you that banded together to write a curriculum that has now reached over 96 countries across 6 continents. Whether it has been at the bedside or in the lab, or in the front of classrooms or picket lines, you have displayed the courage to question the status quo and to push the boundaries of what is thought to be possible. And I can think of no time when this is more important than in the moment we are facing today. We are graduating into an unprecedented inflection point in history. While this pandemic has showcased the resilience and heart of so many people, caregivers, neighbors, friends, and patients, it has also exposed the problems that have for too long persisted in our field. Patients from marginalized communities dying at rates 2 to 3 times higher than their peers. Patients who find themselves forced to choose between putting food on the table or paying for increasingly more expensive medications to stay alive. And patients who lack access to basic healthcare, let alone the latest life-saving innovations. Despite the weight of these challenges, to be honest, I am filled with hope and optimism rather than anxiety or trepidation, because here before us, we have an opportunity to redefine the healthcare systems we want to work in and reimagine the society we want to live in. The uncertainty that we face gives us a chance to say, enough is enough. Let's enact change that puts patients at the center of healthcare again. Let's set aside differences to bolster public health infrastructure and scientific innovation. Let's advocate for affordable, compassionate, and equitable care. In this unique moment, the world is looking to us, to doctors, for our leadership and guidance. I hope we will embrace this privilege, knowing that when we speak, people will listen. And when we write, people will heed our words. Our white coats bear so much power, and it is on us to harness it and strive towards a better future. If your past behavior is any guide, though, I know we're in good hands, and that you will rise to any occasion that demands your leadership, empathy, and focus. So I want to thank you, my remarkable classmates and dear friends, for the many ways you have inspired me with the grace, poise, humility, and kindness with which you move through the world. I know the friendships and bonds we have created together will last a lifetime. Even more, I want to thank our parents, family members, mentors and teachers, faculty and friends who have sacrificed for us and shaped us to be who we are today. We are indebted to you and hope we can make you proud. So, my fellow class of 2020, I want to end with a note on my hopes for our future. I hope we each find success on our own terms and discover joy and meaning in the work that we do. I hope we will use the privilege of our white coats loudly and boldly. And finally, I hope we will be gifted with courage throughout our careers. Courage to see and seek the truth. Courage to speak out against things that have for too long been left unsaid. Courage to sit down and listen, especially when it is most difficult. And courage to do things differently, never forgetting the dreams that brought us to medical school and the dreams that we carry forward with us today. Thank you for the opportunity to address you, and I cannot wait to meet in person again soon. Good luck.
Thank you, Kim. We will now hear from our second Harvard Medical School Class Day speaker, Ludo Joshi. Her speech is titled Between the Facts.
I collect quotes. Over the last 4 years, I've jotted down several between facts that I picked up on rounds. Going through them while sheltering in place has been a fun form of entertainment and has also provided some perspective. 2 big takeaways. First, the facts basically stood zero chance. But second, the quotes between them, they feel like lessons that stuck. August 1st, 2016, the first day of medical school. Crossing that crosswalk of death between Vandy and TMAC, I was thinking about how I was living the dream. A shared dream of all of the people who had ever supported me. Literally generations of hard work, all culminating in me being able to have this moment, the first day at HMS. These words by Sonia Sotomayor captured how I felt. I am an ordinary person who has been blessed with extraordinary opportunities and experiences. Today is one of those experiences. Feeling like an ordinary person brought with it feelings of imposter syndrome, but it also brought with it a humility for how extraordinarily lucky we are to have met each other, to have been inspired by the best mentors, and to have grown into doctors here. That feeling of being blessed has slipped away many times over the course of med school, but thinking back to the excitement of that first day always jolts me back to a state of gratitude, a much better state. The lesson, the lives we lead are extraordinary, and it can help to remember that. September 24th, 2017. The night before PCE, a totally different set of emotions. I was so afraid that I would never know enough, that I would do all of the wrong things and I would never make any progress. In my anxiety, these words by T.S. Eliot gave me some comfort. If you aren't in over your head, how do you know how tall you are? As they promised, it was so hard. I remember questioning whether I was still a person or if I had been replaced by a robot who could only ask, "So, what are you on this month?" when I saw my friends after weeks. Tears were shed. Peripheral nerves went in one ear and out the other. And we doubted ourselves. But surely we found our footing. I learned that I could show up clueless on day one, but somewhere, a few weeks into a rotation, I could trust that I would learn what to do. March 17th, 2017. I'd gotten to catch up with a patient I'd been following since the beginning of PCE. By the time we met, she was in a wheelchair, but she used to be a dancer. Her favorite quote, "Life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain." We all met patients like her who left unforgettable marks on our lives, who taught us the very meaning of the word resilience, and helped us define our callings. Alongside this budding doctorhood, we also found our own sources of strength and resilience. We turned to our friendships, our families, our new interests as we learned to take care of ourselves. The lesson: we define for ourselves what it means to dance in the rain. We're graduating at a time when all of medicine is afraid, uncertain, and feels in over its head. But because of these lessons that were tucked between the facts, I think we are ready. From that first day feeling of living the dream, we learned to be thankful for our opportunities. And with this, we can fight disillusionment and strive humbly for the marks that we will leave on the world. From the sheer terror of the night before PCE, we learned that being in over our heads does indeed allow us to demonstrate how tall we are. We are prepared to be brave and confident, that we can walk into what we do not know and do what once felt impossible. From our patients, our teachers, and from each other, we learn to define for ourselves what it means to dance in the rain. And with this, we can find meaning in our work and joy in our lives. The challenges of COVID-19 and every challenge that comes after is going to ask us to apply these lessons. They will surely be harder than the trial runs we faced, but here at HMS, I found a faith in myself and in each of you that when we jump in, we can figure it out with gratitude, with confidence, and with resilience. May 28th, 2020, graduation day. These wise words by Winnie the Pooh about honey. How grateful am I to have had something that makes saying goodbye so hard. To our faculty, we could not have gotten here without you. And to my classmates, it has been my deepest pleasure to laugh, learn, and grow with you. Like Pooh's honey, medical school was sweet. Sometimes kind of sticky, well savored, and ultimately gone before we knew it. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Magda. It is now my pleasure to introduce my classmate and friend, Ryan LaShawn, who will be delivering the Harvard School of Dental Medicine Class Day student speech. The title of Ryan's speech is Foresight in 2020.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my apartment, and thank you for tuning in. It's an honor to be speaking to you from a laptop in Cambridge, next to my kitchen, and across from my bathroom. You know when they say you should imagine everyone in their underwear to calm your nerves during a big speech? Well, I think I'll be the only dental student in the history of Harvard to physically give his graduation speech in his underwear. In fact, I had planned to only wear boxers under my regalia for in-person commencement. Just kidding, Mom. I know none of us could have predicted that we would be tuning into graduation from our computers on May 28th, 2020, and virtual commencement isn't what we had all hoped for. But what I've come to realize is that with these unusual circumstances come great opportunities. Although we are physically distant and often feel socially isolated in these unique times, I feel so fortunate to be in a world where we can connect virtually to celebrate this momentous occasion. And for that reason, I would like to express gratitude to all of the families, friends, and faculty for tuning in today, and take a moment for everyone and their loved ones who have been affected by this trying time. Despite a world of uncertainty, it's the support of others that enables our collective march forward. I think it's safe to say that many of us were in disbelief when this surreal existence began to unfold. It's hard to fathom that something invisible to the human eye could change the course of humanity as we know it. And yet, here we are, drinking bleach, reusing toilet paper, and giving graduation speeches while tossing back a cold one. And while I too am still processing this alternate reality, let it not diminish the significance of the hard work and perseverance that have been put forth to reach this huge milestone. I am consistently in admiration of my colleagues who have worked tirelessly to earn their degrees. They are accomplished researchers, champions of global and public health, and leaders in policy reform who will undoubtedly change the face of medicine and dentistry. Can I get a round of applause for the Harvard Medical and Dental classes of 2020? Thank you. Thank you. And for those who don't know, HSDM is the smallest dental school in the country, graduating just 2 more students than I have teeth. Our mighty class of 34 DMDs consists of some of the most impressive, hardworking, fun, and incredibly photogenic people I have ever met. I mean, come on, look at those smiles. And while today is bittersweet because we're not together, I feel so lucky to have shared these past 4 years with you all, and hope this brief overview of our experience rekindles some fond memories. During the first year of our medical education, the medical and dental curriculum are one and the same, with the underlying purpose of demonstrating the importance of integrating medicine and dentistry, lest we not forget that the mouth is indeed a part of the body. And for the sake of completeness, we even conducted our first rectal exam as part of our medical education, which means that I can now market my future practice as a one-stop shop from the bottom to the top. Yes, year 2 of dental school featured our infamous stab lab. We practiced injecting local anesthesia on our classmates. Interestingly enough, everyone was on their best behavior that week. And fortunately, we all made it out of stab lab unscathed but numb. Then not much later saw our first patients in the Harvard Dental Center teaching practice. I can still remember our class's palpable anxiety leading up to our first patients. And will never forget when Calvin told me his suction accidentally ensnared his patient's uvula. But seriously, how are we going to synthesize our dental knowledge, navigate the electronic health record, and handle these sharp instruments appropriately, all while making our patients feel confident in us? Yes, it was just a comprehensive oral exam, but for my lucky patient, it was a 4-hour trip to the dentist. It was intimidating, feeling for the first time that someone was depending on me to provide quality care. What did I know? I was just finishing my 2nd year of dental school. I could barely tell a tooth from a chiclet. Just that morning, I was sitting next to Grace in our pre-clinic drilling plastic teeth on a mannequin without a tongue. But we made it, and I soon realized that it did not matter if we had drilled 10 plastic teeth like I had or 10,000 plastic teeth like Kelly had. If your patient felt comfortable, valued, and respected, it did not matter how long you had been practicing. I like to think there's a reason they call it a dental practice and not a dental perfect. Over these past 4 years, we have learned so much and still have so much more to learn. But paramount to all of the dentistry is that the mouths we treat are part of a person. At the end of the day, our patients won't care that our diploma says Harvard if we don't take the time to listen. This is easy to say now when we're sipping beers in our boxers, but when we get back to work and the exhaustion sets in, let us remember that we are in the business of helping others, and there is no duty more honorable. And while our patients may not care where we got our degree, the reality is that others do. Saying that we trained at Harvard is an enormous privilege, which puts us in a unique position to affect change, especially now when public health is in the spotlight. It's a sad reality that COVID-19 is devastating the same underserved minority, poor and vulnerable populations that already experience the brunt of adverse health outcomes. Let this reality demonstrate that the social determinants of health are really powerful drivers of physical disease. Now, more than ever, in our pandemic-induced virtual renaissance, it is our responsibility to connect disciplines, to work with experts in law, government, business, and education to increase access to care and advocate for policy reform. As future healthcare providers, we have the power to give a voice to our patients who don't have one. In just a few moments, we'll become Harvard grads with fancy diplomas, which means that people will listen to us and we will have leverage. Let us use this leverage to help those who don't have the same privilege we have been afforded. And after all of this big picture stuff, I know what most viewers are probably thinking. But Ryan, what about me? Do I really have to floss? I read this New York Times article in 2016 that said there was no definitive research saying that I need to floss. And in response to that, I give you my parting words. A wise dentist once said, only floss between the teeth you want to keep. Cheers to the class of 2020. We did it.
Thank you, Ryan. It is an extraordinary honor to introduce our next speaker, who has the distinction of being not only a world-renowned orthopedic surgeon and chemical engineer, but also an astronaut. With a Bachelor of Science and a PhD in chemical engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Dr. Robert Satcher is a 1994 graduate of Harvard Medical School, where he was a member of the Harvard-MIT program in health sciences and technology. He completed his internship and residency in orthopedic surgery at the University of California, San Francisco, and a fellowship in musculoskeletal oncology at the University of Florida, Gainesville. But beyond all of this, Dr. Satcher was also trained as a NASA astronaut, after which he journeyed in 2009 to the International Space Station, where he spent more than 259 hours in space, performed 2 spacewalks, repaired space station equipment, and served as the crew's medical doctor. Currently an associate professor of orthopedic oncology at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, Dr. Satcher is also a co-founder of the eHealth Research Institute, which brings together physicians and researchers to improve access to specialized health care. And he is currently also working on building a cancer center in sub-Saharan Africa. For his remarks titled, Dear Class of 2020, Be well, do good, and contribute to the benefit of all, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Robert Satcher.
Distinguished guests and graduating class, it's a tremendous honor to be with you virtually today for your Class Day celebration. I think it's safe to say that nobody expected things to be like this. So I think it's only appropriate that I wear the appropriate personal protective equipment throughout this address. I'm not going to mention names or places, but I will use for guidance an incident that happened with the Vice President of the United States at a famous medical institution in Minnesota that rhymes with Deo. Seriously, I'm trying to be sensitive to the times, at least symbolically, but I'm not going to wear a mask today. Maybe just on a future visit to Harvard Medical School. When Deans Daly and Hundred invited me on behalf of the class to speak at Class Day, I was excited at the prospect of returning to the HMS Quad and celebrating with you. But in an odd way, I think it's appropriate that I'm bringing you greetings from Houston, Texas, virtually. I'm an HST graduate, as many of you know, so it makes sense that it should be a health sciences and technology alum that is speaking at the first Class Day that is entirely dependent on technology. As much as you treasure your parents, I'm sure that none of you imagined finishing medical school back in your parents' homes on a Zoom meeting, without the opportunity to walk across the stage and shake the dean's hand. There is an air of disappointment to these circumstances. But I implore you to keep your heads up, and most importantly, to keep your microphones muted so that we don't hear what's going on in your house. I also hope that you keep your cameras appropriately focused from the shoulders up, as many of you may not be appropriately attired below the waist. But seriously, this is a special moment as the culmination of years of hard work, focus, sacrifice, and vision. It's a mere 26 years ago when I stepped across the stage to receive my diploma from then Dean Tosteson, and never imagined returning in the current capacity. Furthermore, although I don't think of myself as old, I realized that when I entered HMS in 1986, most of you, if not all of you, weren't born. It was a much different time then. There was no social media, no FaceTime, no Zoom. So a gathering like we're doing today wasn't possible. And I have to admit, I don't remember who the speaker was when I graduated, and I don't remember any of the words of wisdom from that day. I also have to say that I don't remember much from any graduation speakers at any level, high school, college, or graduate school. So I've set a bar of achievement for myself in today's remarks that's consistent with my limited, but I do believe significant sampling. I hope that you at least remember that it was me talking to you and that we were in the midst of a pandemic. Whether or not you remember anything else that I say, it's probably too much to expect. This COVID-19 pandemic has presented us with many challenges and opportunities only previously imagined. As medical professionals, we are uniquely positioned to make a difference for the world moving forward. So it is more important than ever to remember that perception is not reality. The most important thing to do is to try to make a difference and to do the right thing. Far too often, it's become the norm to be selfishly concerned and to subordinate guiding principles rooted in ethics and wisdom in our collective pursuit or obsession to be popular, or at least having the facade of popularity as measured by likes or tweets. Perhaps the best way to bring us all into an enlightened consciousness together is to remember those relevant aspects of the professional oath rooted in the Hippocratic Oath that we pledge. And I'll read them. I'll remember that I do not treat a fever chart, a cancerous growth, but a sick human being whose illness may affect a person's family and economic stability. My responsibility includes these related problems if I am to care adequately for the sick. I will prevent disease whenever I can, for prevention is preferable to cure. I will protect the environment which sustains us, in the knowledge that the continuing health of ourselves and our societies is dependent on a healthy planet. I will remember that I remain a member of society with special obligations to all my fellow human beings, those sound of mind and body as well as the infirm. So I'm going to share with you two examples from my life experience that might shed some perspective on our current circumstance. And I intend to give you hope as you set forth into the post-pandemic world. As many of you know, I'm also an astronaut. In fact, I'm the first orthopedic surgeon and first oncologist to also serve in this capacity. I flew aboard the Space Shuttle Atlantis in 2009, visiting the International Space Station for close to 2 weeks. I'm one of 14 African Americans and the last one, for that matter, to travel into space. Our mission, STS-129, was a construction mission for which I had the privilege of doing 2 spacewalks and the incredible experience of seeing the home planet from space. We retired the space shuttle shortly thereafter, that have recently, if all has gone well, began launching astronauts into space, again from US soil. And my colleagues, Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, should be now safely aboard the International Space Station after launching from Cape Canaveral on the maiden voyage of the SpaceX Dragon spaceship. It's taken 10 years and lots of effort and faith, but the post-space shuttle program gap is finally over. And it's also notable that it was 50 years ago when one of the most memorable moments in spaceflight history occurred. We all remember the phrase, "Houston, we have a problem," which were the words spoken by Apollo 13 astronaut John Jack Swigert via radio communication to NASA Mission Control Center in Houston, following the discovery of an explosion that crippled their spacecraft. For history buffs, the words that he actually spoke were, "Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here." And when I think about our current situation with COVID-19, it's entirely possible that the astronauts aboard the space station may have heard these words, "Space station, we have a problem here in Houston." Mission Control was probably looking for a way to get aboard the space station to avoid coronavirus. We all know how the Apollo 13 story ended, and it should give us hope how this pandemic on the home planet will end. Although the astronauts did not visit the moon, all the crew returned safely to Earth. The nation and the world were transfixed as Mission Control and the crew of Apollo 13 discovered and responded to the problem which robbed them of the opportunity to land on the moon, and most urgently and importantly, called into question whether or not they would survive. They adjusted their orbit using a contingency burn that had fortunately been previously researched and calculated by NASA flight controls and engineers. Onboard consumables, oxygen and water, were conserved as the explosion resulted in an oxygen leak. The crew, including James Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes, still hold the record for furthest travel in space away from Earth, about 250,000 miles, since the moon was further in its elliptical orbit around the Earth than during other Apollo missions, and because Apollo 13's closest approach to the moon was further from the moon than other missions. Because of the quick thinking of the crew and mission control and the ability to analyze, diagnose, and correct in real time, the crew survived. So on April 17, 1970, the astronauts splashed down in the Pacific Ocean 600 miles southeast of American Samoa, successfully concluding a 6-day mission nearly ended by disaster. The explosion of the oxygen tank in their service module had robbed their command module of power and oxygen, forcing them to take refuge in the lunar module. Through the judicious conservation of resources and expert guidance from the teams at Mission Control, the spacecraft designed to support 2 men for 2 days kept 3 men alive for 4 days. It was a modern-day saga and testimonial to courage, intelligence, and judgment in life-threatening circumstances that sets an example for the collective power of teams and the incredible ability of a crew that worked well together. The well-being of every individual involved was preserved and advanced by this collective effort. Now, in this drama, engineers led the way by providing the alternatives that allowed the crew in Mission Control to identify a pathway to success. And we, as healthcare professionals, have a similar opportunity today to lead the country and the world to post-pandemic success by defining the alternatives that will allow public officials to make the correct choices and to lead discovery and innovation in finding a cure and better ways of preventing disease spread. And on an individual level, to care for those afflicted by coronavirus, and equally as importantly, to provide hope. One of my favorite quotes are from Malcolm X, who had a way of putting things that are unforgettable. He said, "There is no better than adversity. Every defeat, every heartbreak, every loss contains its own seed, its own lesson on how to improve your performance the next time," unquote. There's a couple others I want to share with you that are both inspiring and appropriate. Comfort and prosperity have never enriched the world as much as adversity has. That's by Billy Graham. And here's one to remember in these times of social distancing. Keep your nose out of the sky. Keep your heart to God and keep your face to the rising sun. That's by Kanye West. We cannot lose sight of the big picture in our pursuit and passion for promoting healthcare. The new moniker of both health and wellness could not be more apropos. What's also become evident during this pandemic is that everyone is not equally impacted. We've now become well aware of the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on certain groups, and especially African Americans who have died disproportionately in this pandemic. The reasons for this are well understood, if not universally agreed upon. Namely, the pandemic has also served as a spotlight on underlying deficiencies in our society, providing a truth serum of sorts to collective denials rooted in historical and institutionalized injustices. The healthcare system in this country, amongst many other things, is still not fair. Specifically, it is still contaminated with racism. This racism is baked into the system, as innumerable examples have illustrated. My uncle, former U.S. Surgeon General David Satcher, who also spoke at HMS Class Day 20 years ago, established ethical guidelines for informed consent in clinical research that stem from the infamous Tuskegee experiment. For those of you who don't know, from 1932 to 1972, African American men were intentionally infected with syphilis by the U.S. Public Health Service and not told of their condition, nor offered treatment in order to, in quotes, observe the natural history of untreated syphilis, unquote. The African American men in the study were only told they were receiving free health care from the federal government of the United States. So the disproportionate impact we see today on African Americans from coronavirus has roots and is occurring because those who make up the healthcare system continue to have racial bias. And because those who are subject to this bias are logically wary and non-trusting of the medical system. And it's not only because of the Tuskegee experiment that ended in 1972. This ongoing racial bias has been demonstrated over and over again. From everything to symptoms associated with heart attacks in African Americans not being taken seriously, resulting in tragic and preventable deaths, to abnormally long waits in emergency rooms, and to the undertreatment of pain in cancer patients, as these symptoms are not taken as seriously as other ethnic groups. Moreover, because of economic disadvantage, there is not equal access to health care for African Americans. In sum total, it's a vicious cycle of neglect that cannot be ignored and must be rectified. We're all collectively responsible for correcting these problems, and there's a special and larger responsibility for the privileged groups and those who are in leadership positions. The results on African American and affected communities are already devastating as measured in all metrics of public health prior to the pandemic. The pandemic has only accelerated the recognition of these inequities. So the only questions that remain are, number one, can we handle the truth? And number two, what are we going to do about it? Which brings me to a final point. We have absolutely no reason to feel that we cannot do anything about the current situation. You are soon to be graduates of the best medical school in the country and probably worldwide. Your voices are not only important, but are sorely needed. Here's a quote from Michelle Obama. You should never view your challenges as a disadvantage. Instead, it's important for you to understand that your experience facing and overcoming adversity is actually one of your biggest advantages, unquote. Coming from HMS and HSDM, I certainly hope that you believe in your abilities to affect change. To add perspective, and I'm going to end on this, I retell a story of my great-grandfather. This always inspired me and is the best way that I remember that you shouldn't allow yourself to be cowed into inaction by fear or what can seem to be insurmountable odds. He grew up in Alabama as a sharecropper, when times were even more openly hostile to African Americans. There was Jim Crow laws and whites could get away with murdering African Americans if they chose. But he had high hopes for his children, including my grandfather, and he emphasized education. He decided that all of his children would finish high school and possibly attend college at a time when there were vanishingly few opportunities for African Americans to pursue basic education, not to mention college and higher education. This, of course, was frowned upon by the local white community. And because of his intelligence and unbeknownst to white buyers, he understood the value of his crops. So one year when they offered substantially less than what they were worth, my great-grandfather let it be known that he knew and demanded a fair price. For this offense, the local townspeople decided that he would be lynched, as was far too often the case in those days. Now, as good fortune should have it, their plans were overheard and relayed to my great-grandfather. He had an agonizing choice to make: stay in Edison and potentially be killed, or leave without being able to secure the fate of his family. Well, he chose the latter, as it is at least a better chance of making a difference for his family. Better to be alive than dead. So he left by foot in the middle of the night, walking 60 miles to Birmingham, followed by a combination of hitchhiking, odd jobs, and walking to get to Cleveland, Ohio, where he resumed working. The impact on the family was real and lasting. None of his kids went to college. However, the message that he taught was received. Never give up. Use your intelligence and ability to make a difference. So all of his kids carried on with that goal. And his son, my grandfather, owned his own farm and land rather than sharecropping, and conveyed the message of education to his children. All of his children finished college, with several obtaining advanced degrees. So if my great-grandfather could persevere and see his legacy realized in the face of such overwhelming adversity, I, you, and we certainly can do the same, or perhaps better. As President Obama recently said, injustice like this isn't new. What is new is that so much of your generation has woken up to the fact that the status quo needs fixing, that the old ways of doing things don't work. So be encouraged. As HMS HSDM graduates, you have earned this moment. Now more than ever, you have the tools that are needed to make change. So I implore you to be bold and have a vision that isn't clouded by cynicism or fear. You can remake our healthcare system and remake the world. Thank you.
I am delighted to join you today to recognize the graduates of the Harvard School of Dental Medicine and the Harvard Medical School on this very special occasion. Congratulations to the class of 2020 and to all of your loved ones who have supported you throughout this journey, which didn't end in the way any of us had anticipated. In the past few months, you have faced hurdles that none of us could have imagined. You rose to the challenge and got to the finish line. Speaking on behalf of our entire faculty and staff, we are proud of you. During your tenure at HSDM, you've become skilled clinicians and compassionate caregivers who treat oral health as a critical component of overall health. The social determinants of health weren't just an abstract concept that you learned in the classroom, but something you witnessed in the field and took action to address. Through your community-based externships, you served in local healthcare settings, treating those with the greatest need. Many of you volunteered at programs that focus on vulnerable populations, such as the Action Clinic for Children and Teens in Oral Health Need, the Wampanoag Oral Health Relief Effort, and the Special Olympics Special Smile program. You've delved into projects that expanded your view of what oral health equity means for patients in the US and for those around the world. This broad view, combined with your own personal experiences, will serve you well as you join the profession at a time when our healthcare system faces many critical challenges. You will be the advocates and leaders we need to promote science, influence policy, and champion compassionate and equitable care. While at HSDM, you also supported each other. You spent long hours together in the lab and the clinic. You quizzed each other in midnight study sections, and you shared words of encouragement with classmates after challenging cases. You volunteered to coach undergraduate students in pipeline programs aimed at encouraging individuals underrepresented in dentistry to apply to dental school. The students, classmates, and mentors you've met here will remain lifelong friends and colleagues. Today, we recognize 34 individuals receiving the Doctor of Dental Medicine degree, 7 of whom with honors in a special field, and 6 receiving the degree with general honors. I'd also like to congratulate the 12 advanced graduate education students receiving the Master's of Medical Science degree and the 10 receiving the Doctor of Medical Science degree in their fields, as well as those residents and fellows who are receiving specialty certificates. You join a distinguished group of alumni who are devoted to making a difference in the lives of others, treating patients with dignity and respect, leading research, promoting public health, and educating others. You have become valued members of our community, and I hope you will hold fond memories of the school as we will of you. You are setting off into a world that feels very unsettled. So many of the things we held as certainties seem to have faded away. The Greek philosopher Epictetus said, "We cannot choose external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Our job was to prepare you to handle anything. If we had any doubts, your ability to complete your degree requirements under the harrowing circumstances of a public health crisis demonstrated remarkable determination and adaptability. We had hoped to teach you how to be resilient. In the end, you showed us what resilience really means. Not only have you accomplished what many could not have, but you have done it with a measure of grace that is inspiring. I hope that you believe in yourselves as much as we believe in you. You are well prepared to shape the future of healthcare, and we eagerly look forward to seeing where your dreams will take you. Congratulations, class of 2020.
Dr. Michael Barron, Dr. Michelle Chen, Dr. David Danesh, Dr. Jacob MG, Dr. Thomas Christian Favali, Dr. Elodie Healy, Dr. Ellen Hung, Dr. Grace Su, Dr. Akshay Kirti, Dr. Kevin Kiang, Dr. Jian Kim, Dr. Ryan Lisan, Dr. Colina Catherine McGinn, Dr. Jenny Marinucci, Dr. Laurel Francis Martinez, also receiving her master's in biological sciences and dental medicine, Dr. Kara McLaughlin, Dr. Jason Middleton, Dr. Michael David O'Donnell, Dr. Ishani Patel, Dr. Kelvin Andrew Rhodes, Dr. Stacy Rogers, Dr. Shreya Sharma, Dr. Mai Neva Stern, Dr. Kelly Marie Seralik, Dr. Kristen Danielle Sweeney, Dr. Jeffrey Taylor II, Dr. Matthew Tsai, Dr. Rebecca Tsai, Dr. Jordan Wilner, Dr. Brendan Wesley Wu, Dr. Kristen Paige Yent, Dr. Amy Yu, Dr. Shishi Zhou, Dr. Nancy Zhu,
Greetings to the Harvard Medical School and Harvard School of Dental Medicine class of 2020. More than ever, I'm grateful to be able to congratulate you on your remarkable achievements. Today, we're convening across vast distances to celebrate together. I wish it were in person, but that time will come. Through your excellence, hard work, and commitment to alleviating suffering and improving the lives and well-being of your patients, you have earned the right and the privilege to be called doctor. I am so proud of you, and I'm honored to now count you as colleagues. You have dedicated your lives to a career in service to others. Few times in history has that commitment held as much meaning as it does today. The COVID-19 pandemic has transformed the world, and you are the newest members of a profession that stands on the front lines of this struggle. In 1936, when our country was still in the grip of the Great Depression, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, "To some generations, much is given. Of other generations, much is expected. This generation of Americans has a rendezvous with destiny." His words ring true for this generation, for your generation of doctors. As you have not only met immense expectations, you have exceeded them. In the face of an era-defining pandemic, you responded. You founded a nationwide movement to support frontline healthcare workers, to aid vulnerable populations, and to inform and educate communities. You triaged thousands of phone calls with patients. You helped get PPE to those in need. You volunteered in every way you could. And you created a COVID-19 curriculum that has been adopted at medical schools and by healthcare professionals in 108 countries on 6 continents. I wonder what previous generations would have thought of your efforts. In 1918, as an unprecedented influenza pandemic swept the globe, Boston experienced one of the worst outbreaks in the US. Hospitals were overflowing with desperate patients. Doctors and nurses were overwhelmed, and personnel shortages ran rampant. Harvard Medical School students, led by Dr. George Minot, bravely confronted the crisis, examining patients and treating hundreds of sick student soldiers in Cambridge. I think they would be proud to know that you have followed in their footsteps. Class of 2020, in the face of an era-defining pandemic, you experienced severe disruptions to your lives and education. To protect yourselves and others, you left the campus and isolated. You found your new housing or returned home. You halted your lab work, your clinical rotations. You learned how to become doctors virtually. I wonder what previous generations would have thought of your sacrifices. In the midst of World War II, Harvard Medical School reserved much of its class for training Army and Navy doctors. Vanderbilt Hall was, for a time, converted to barracks, and as such, the rigors of military life were enforced upon students, who surrendered many of the personal freedoms they once enjoyed. This came with considerable controversy, but a student named David John Bradley articulated a perspective that resonates to this day. In a letter penned in 1943 to my predecessor, Dean Charles Burwell, he wrote, "It is not that I, in a perverted way, enjoy doing finger exercises at 7 in the morning, or waxing floors, or washing windows, or making beds, or living away from a home which my wife and I have just put together in anticipation of a family. I find such things as unpleasant as any normal person would. But even when you add all these things up and multiply them by the factor of our traditional American individualism, I cannot see that our complaints are more than a puff of dust in the smoke of this world war. I think Dr. Bradley would be proud of your perseverance and your resiliency. Throughout the 238-year history of our school, many generations have had a rendezvous with destiny. You, the class of 2020, have matched them step for step, and I'm certain that they would be proud that you are carrying on their legacy. You have more than demonstrated your deep and profound commitment to others and to the mission of our school and our profession. You have published papers, founded companies and national organizations. You've battled for social justice here in Boston and around the world. You've received awards and recognitions too many to enumerate here today, including one among you who will graduate summa cum laude, only the 20th student to have earned this distinction in our school's history. Now you become doctors at a time when you are experiencing uncertainty, anxiety, perhaps even fear. I know I felt all those emotions when I was a medical student. In the summer of 1984, I had my first clinical rotation as the AIDS epidemic raged across the country. We had only a primitive understanding of the disease, no treatments for the virus, and infection was almost inevitably fatal. I remember well the anxiety I felt starting a subclavian central line on an AIDS patient in the ICU. But I also felt the tremendous responsibility, the solemn duty to care for that patient. That experience, and the ones that you will have in the coming months as you enter the healthcare workforce, is at the heart of what makes medicine a noble profession. As physicians, it is our fundamental calling to take care of patients. And while it is our responsibility to prepare meticulously and to take every measure to protect ourselves, our roles, by their very nature, come with inherent risks and personal sacrifices as we shoulder the tremendous responsibilities that come with being a doctor. Serving in times of crisis is part of the inspiration that drew us to medicine. And no matter how much the world changes, the central calling of our profession to heal and to help those who need our talents, training, skills, and compassion, that will never change. This is a historic moment in medicine, your very own rendezvous with destiny, and it will shape the doctors and the individuals that you will become. You will never forget this, and Harvard Medical School will never forget you. Again, to the class of 2020, on behalf of our school, your teachers and mentors, and the alumni community that you now join, I want to congratulate you on your remarkable achievements and to thank you for all that you have done and will do in service to the world.
Dr. George Ajapan, Dr. Michelle Bayevsky, Dr. Sarah Berman, also receiving a PhD, Dr. Nicholas Bodner, Dr. George Bugarinovich, Dr. Santino Butler, Dr. Daniel Caruso, Dr. Gia Jane Chen, Dr. Bennett Cho, Dr. David Graham Clossy, Dr. Pedro Cortez, Dr. Andrew Foley. Also receiving an MPP, Dr. Jonathan Freed, Dr. Jennifer Halford, Dr. Jeffrey Harala, Dr. Rebecca Hofer, Dr. Mohammed Sarib Hussein, Dr. Micah Johnson. Also receiving a PhD, Dr. George Karandinos, Dr. Ethan Katz-Nelson. Also receiving a Master's in Education, Dr. Michael Kochis, Dr. Elizabeth Lemoyne, Dr. Michael Lindeborg, Dr. Ifan Liu, Dr. Dayton McMillan, Dr. Sloan Mabin, Dr. Lauren Mitchell, Dr. Gabriel Molina, Dr. Blanca Morales. Also receiving an MBA, Dr. Christopher Murray, Dr. Fedro Okifo, Dr. Ricardo Ortiz, Dr. Eve Roth, Dr. Talia Shoshani. Also receiving an MPP, Dr. Jocelyn Streed, Dr. Lucila Suarez, Dr. Nora Cristina Torres Jordan, Dr. Pedro Vera Gonzalez, Dr. Sean Wang.
Dr. Isaac Alti, Dr. Amin Bargi, Dr. Theodore Bovey, Dr. Camilo Campo, Dr. Perry Sochoy, Dr. Michael Din, Dr. Fiatsobi Juali. Also graduating with a Master's of Public Policy, Dr. Josie Fisher, Dr. Karun Ganjawala. Also graduating with a Master's of Business Administration, Dr. Michael Gerard, Dr. Kelsey Ray Hahn. Also graduating with a Master's of Business Administration, Dr. Tyler Hayes. Also graduating with a Master's of Public Policy, Dr. Mark Benjamin Herzog. Dr. Emily Jinjun Ji. Dr. June Liu. Dr. Allison Mers. Dr. Nicholas Moore, Dr. Joseph Herrera, Dr. Jane Raven Rice. Also graduating with a Master's of Business Administration, Dr. Samantha Sanders. Dr. John Sataloff. Dr. Kaylin Sierra Davidson. Dr. Richard Smith. Dr. Constantine Tarabanis. Dr. Carlos Torres. Dr. Samantha Truong. Dr. Martin Ventoso. Also graduating with a Master's of Business Administration, Dr. Claire Wagner.
Also receiving his doctorate of philosophy, Dr. Matthew Severs Alkaitis. Dr. Jeffrey Bays. Also receiving her Master's of Public Policy, Dr. Danica Barry. Also receiving his doctorate of philosophy, Dr. Matthew Basilico. Dr. Alex Armando Bonilla. Also receiving his doctorate of philosophy, Dr. Seth Harris Cassell. Dr. Bliss June Chang. Dr. Bhushan De Sabhande. Dr. Hilary Dolstad. Dr. Sienna Marie Durbin. Dr. Michael Philip Dykstra. Dr. Connor Andrew Emden. Dr. Parissa Nicole Falla. Dr. Swati Goel. Also receiving her Master's of Business Administration, Dr. Tara Jain. Dr. Mugdha Joshi. Dr. Jennifer R. Kulini. Also receiving his Master's of Business Administration, Dr. Aditya Vishwish Karhadde. Dr. In-Kyu Kim. Dr. Grace Lee. Also receiving his Master's of Business Administration, Dr. Damir Loboyha. Dr. Elizabeth Hyland Bransford Maxwell. Dr. Ellie Kahuli Mahana. Dr. Sophia Eve Meyerson Hertz. Dr. Tiffany Shavana Miners Fulton. Dr. Heyman Solomon Mulita. Dr. Alexander James Ordubadi. Also receiving his Master's of Business Administration, Dr. Gavin Grant Oshak. Also receiving his Doctorate of Philosophy, Dr. Daniel Stark Pearson. Dr. Gregory Andrew Peters, Jr. Dr. Christopher John Ritchie, Dr. George Andre Romar, Dr. Kirsten Woody Scott, Dr. Neha Shafiq, Dr. Kevin Elanam Sika, Dr. Jacob Adam Silver, Dr. Lisa Emily Simon, Dr. Andrew Bumjin Song. Also receiving his Master's of Business Administration, Dr. Joe K. Tung, Dr. Edward Chiahang Wong, Dr. Amanda West, Dr. Jason Young, Dr. Connie S. Zong.
Also receiving the PhD from Harvard University, Dr. Matthew Bond, Dr. Todd Brenner, Dr. Ling Ya Chao. Also receiving the PhD from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Dr. David Cox. Also receiving the PhD from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Dr. Colin Fatson. Also receiving the PhD from Harvard University, Dr. Emma Fink. Dr. Sarah Garnay. Dr. Scott Goodwin. Also receiving the PhD from Harvard University, Dr. Aaron Hodis. Dr. Min Young Jang. Dr. Ruth Kagan. Dr. Yoon Ji Kang. Dr. Jesse Kim. Dr. Patrick Lee. Dr. Donna Leet. Also receiving the PhD from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Dr. Amy Lee. Also receiving the PhD from Harvard University, Dr. Bingheng Edward Lee. Dr. Selena Lee. Dr. Malia McAvoy. Also receiving the PhD from Harvard University, Dr. Kristen Mangwasser. Dr. Shirley Moe. Dr. Andrew Wynn. Dr. Penny Nee. Dr. Ani Normaknot. Dr. Koyen O. Also receiving a master's degree from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Dr. Alexis Peterson. Also receiving the PhD from Harvard University, Dr. Sana Raouf. Also receiving the PhD from Harvard University, Dr. Yakir Reshef. Dr. Justin Rice. Also receiving the PhD from Harvard University, Dr. Rachel Roden. Dr. Simone Sass. Also receiving the PhD from Harvard University, Dr. Clara Starkweather. Dr. Michael Thom. Dr. Matthew Weber.
Also receiving the Master of Business Administration degree, Dr. Kin Chaeman Ong. Dr. Shaunak Bakshi. Dr. Tyler Chavez. Dr. Pamela Chen. Dr. Aaron Cheng. Dr. Damari Croswell. Also receiving the Master of Business Administration degree, Dr. Ricardo Diarmas. Dr. Jeffrey Dong. Dr. Jonathan Florence. Also receiving the Master of Bioethics degree, Dr. Zoe Fullerton. Dr. Karu Giberson Chen. Dr. Emily Gutowski. Dr. Austin Herbst. Dr. Andrea Hinton. Dr. Felicia Sue. Dr. Julia Hyman. Dr. Janice Kim. Dr. Min Kyung Kim. Dr. Benjamin Kovaci. Also receiving the Master of Business Administration degree, Dr. Jordan Leibovic. Also receiving the Master of Public Policy degree, Dr. David Liebers. Dr. Maltish Lorenzo. Also receiving the Master of Business Administration degree, Dr. Andrew Mall. Dr. Emma Myers. Dr. Ruven Monares. Dr. Sarah Osmolsky. Also receiving the Master of Business Administration degree, Dr. Julia Pean. Also receiving the Master of Business Administration degree, Dr. Kira Seeger. Dr. Daniel Sakavi. Dr. Sean Singer. Dr. Elizabeth Stuber. Dr. Thuzar Fain. Dr. Max Wallach. Also receiving the Master of Business Administration degree, Dr. Christine Wong. Dr. Santhira Wijayaratna.
On behalf of the graduating Harvard Medical School and Harvard School of Dental Medicine classes of 2020, we now have the pleasure of introducing our incredible faculty, resident, and staff award recipients. Our first award is the Leonard Toe Humanism Award from the Arnold P. Gold Foundation. This award is presented annually to a faculty member who demonstrates outstanding compassion in the delivery of care, respect for patients, their families, and healthcare colleagues, as well as demonstrates clinical excellence. We are pleased to announce this year's winner, Dr. David A. Hirsch. Our next award is the Excellence in Classroom Instruction Award, for which we recognize Dr. Randall W. King, Dr. Albert Q. Lamb, Dr. Richard M. Schwartzstein, and Dr. Jeffrey H. William.
We now turn to our next award, the Excellence in Clinical Instruction Award. We are thrilled to recognize 4 tremendous clinician educators: Dr. David G. Hunter, Dr. Jeremy B. Richards, Dr. Noel N. Salient, and Dr. Daniel A. Solomon. Our final Harvard Medical School Faculty Award is the Outstanding Faculty Mentor Award. We are overjoyed to recognize 4 incredible faculty mentors: Dr. Elliot L. Chakoff, Dr. Eric Goralnik, Dr. Jennifer E. Potter, and Dr. Anita Banka. In addition to working with tremendous faculty, we have had the great joy to work with outstanding resident physicians. For this year's Excellence in Clinical Instruction Resident Award, we are thrilled to recognize 3 incredible resident physicians: Dr. Douglas J. Cassidy, Dr. Nicole A. LaHood, and Dr. Priya Srikam.
We now turn to awards given by the graduating Harvard School of Dental Medicine class of 2020. Our first award is for outstanding teaching faculty. We are pleased to recognize 2 wonderful faculty members, Dr. Tian Zhang and Dr. Russell Taylor. We are also thrilled to recognize Dr. Alexander Jelicic, this year's winner of our Outstanding Resident Teaching Award. Finally, we turn toward the incredible staff that we have worked and interacted with over the past 4 or more years. From the School of Dental Medicine, we recognize Mr. Charles Moyle and Mr. William Walker. And from the medical school, we recognize Ms. Francini Johnson. We are thrilled to announce these faculty, resident, and staff awards and look forward to formally celebrating all of our award recipients during our in-person class day ceremony.
And now let's take the HMS HSDM class of 2020 graduation oath. I pledge to respect how people become patients.
To recognize the whole person who encompasses far more than disease.
I will remember that medicine is an art as much as it is a science.
I will seek to understand my patients' lives, not direct them.
When my patients show their pain, I will see them.
When they tell their stories, I will hear them.
Together.
Together.
Together, we will respect our patients' confidentiality and will not take for granted the trust that our patients place in us.
Recognizing our shared frailty, we will first do no harm, treading carefully in matters of life and death.
We will remember the healing power of each therapeutic relationship and fulfill our responsibilities with compassion and humility.
I recognize that the health of my patients occurs within a context deeply shaped by broader forces in society.
I pledge to use the privilege of my white coat to advocate for my patients and to amplify unheard voices with respect and honor.
I will strive to recognize and dismantle forms of injustice that contribute to health inequities.
Together. We will not be bystanders.
We will not be bystanders.
We will not be bystanders to the status quo.
We will reimagine the future of healthcare, never forgetting how far medicine has come and how far it still has to go.
I will remember that in order to best serve my patients and this world, I must first care for myself.
I will attend to my own health, well-being, and gifts of life that restore me.
I will strive for balance and cultivate resilience, approaching all situations with curiosity and a humble heart.
I will look for the good in others and in myself, even if, and especially when, it is difficult.
Together.
Together.
Together. We will reflect, forgive, and have courage as we take these next steps into a lifetime of learning and growth.
I pledge to support my colleagues through moments filled with hope and healing, as well as those marked by pain and suffering.
With gratitude to those who have fostered my growth, I will strive to invest in the next generation of healers.
Together, we enter our profession with the duty to embrace,
care for, and learn from one another.
Those here before us
and those who will come after.
We join our profession in a changing world, with challenges that ask more from each of us and as a collective whole.
May our journeys be filled with hope.
May we forever strive to uphold the values of our calling
as we accompany those in need of healing.
To leave our world better than we found it.
And to long experience the meaning
and joy
of our service.
Class of 2020, Congratulations again on becoming the newest doctors and dentists in the Harvard family. I hope you enjoy your celebration with family, friends, and loved ones. And when it is safe to do so, we will be certain to celebrate together again in person. We're proud of you and we wish you the best. I look forward to seeing all the tremendous things that you will accomplish in the future.